Are you getting sick in another half hour, 45 minutes?
Yeah, probably.
Great. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the school committee meeting of June 9th, 2021. If we could please start with a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Since this is our first meeting since Memorial Day, I thought it would be appropriate for our moment of silence if we could just take a moment to recognize and remember those that paid the ultimate sacrifice defending this country. So if you could please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. So we are going to start with public comment, which will be now in person. And just for some ground rules, for anyone that does want to provide public comment, we'd be looking for roughly 2 or 3 minutes. If it's something that's not on an agenda, it's something that we may put on a subsequent agenda. We're not looking to do any type of discussion. And with that, I'll open it up to public comment if anyone has anything. Please, if you could just state your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Sandy. This is my husband, Brian. We live on Park Ave in Whitman. We have 2 kids within the Whitman Hanson School District. We'd like you to give us a little bit of extended time, as this is due to our 6-year-old son, if that's possible.
So I will say that if it's in regard to a student, there are certain privacy and or legal things that we need to make sure that we follow to maintain compliance. We can certainly have a discussion offline after the fact.
That's fine. We would just like to be heard.
But yeah, if you could just try and keep it to a couple or a few minutes, just so we're fair to everyone, please.
Sure. I did say we have 2 kids in the school district. Our daughter, Michaela, is finishing up 3rd grade and loving every minute of it. She has an email from her teacher in the file talking about how she is a model student at Duval. Our son, Aiden, is finishing up kindergarten, and he is the reason we are here to speak. I know sometimes it's nice to put like face to a name, so I just wanted to show the school committee or pass around a picture of our kids just so that you know who they are. And we have one to pass around to everybody else.
Very cute kids.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adorable. On July 27, 2017, our son was diagnosed with severe childhood apraxia of speech, which is a neurological disorder as well as an articulation and phonological disorder. He also has expressive language disorder secondary to his difficulties with speech production. What this means is that Aiden has trouble communicating. He knows what he wants to say, but his brain cannot get his mouth, lips, jaw, and tongue to move in the correct direction. The diagnosis of his disability was from Boston Children's Hospital. The diagnosis of apraxia suggests the continued importance of using the principles of motor learning. These suggestions come from his private SLP as well as Edith Strand, who is a specialist in apraxia. Again, this is a neurological disorder where his brain is impacting his ability to speak. In his case, it also affects his fine motor, which is considered his midline. To help you understand what apraxia is, we were told early on that we could do an exercise to try and understand how it is to process living with apraxia. So if you could, in your head right now, simply count from 1 to 10, as fast as you can, but swap 4 and 8. Basically count 1, 2, 3, 8, 5, 6, 7, 4, 9, 10, as fast as you can. That is the comparable struggle to what Aiden faces each and every time he tries to produce just one word, let alone stringing together a sentence. Aiden has had quite the adventure through the Whitman Hanson School District. Aiden started his journey with early intervention, and from there went to the Whitman preschool. Prior to entering the school, Aiden had an ARENA test and a Bailey's test. This is a structured type of observation where Aiden was put in a room with toys and specialists. They listen and watch him. Aiden was never given any individual evaluations, such as an augmentative communication device, which is a talker that Aiden needs to use 100% to communicate. As when he entered the preschool, Aiden was 100% unintelligible. You could not understand any word he said. Aiden was also not given an OT, PT, or speech evaluation. Us parents at this point were also clueless and had no idea. We weren't informed until later on down the line when we hired an advocate what Aiden would need and what other special needs kids should be getting when they enter the school district. We as parents were new to this disability and were trying to educate ourselves, and we also assumed the school district was doing everything they could to help our son. At the end of the preschool year, 2018, we agreed to send Aiden to the extended school year summer program. At this point, they still didn't offer him OT, which we had to fight later on down the road for with an advocate. We asked if his sister Michaela could attend the summer program, even though she was above the age allowed. This was because Aiden was 100% unintelligible. I dropped Aiden off and Michaela on Monday morning, July 23rd, 2018, thinking they were in the best hands. Approximately 10:45 a.m., I got a call from the principal stating there'd been an accident at school and Aiden was hurt. I was told not a big deal, no need to rush, call his pediatrician because he needed to be seen. They had been doing a volcano experiment and it exploded in Aiden's face, and some chemicals got into his eyes because none of the preschoolers were in safety glasses. When I showed up, a staff member came up to me and said, "We're so very sorry." My response was, "No big deal. Accidents happen. They're kids." I was led into the building by a staff member into the preschool room where I found my son in the corner with his sister and another staff member. Both his eyes were swollen shut. I'm not sure if we're able to pass around a picture of that.
Yeah, I think, so we are at kind of
And
the
that's
time.
fine.
And I think there's a challenge here in that you're really bringing up a very specific issue relating to a very specific student. And with that, there are certain things that govern the district in terms of making sure that we treat that in a private manner. So the problem that we're going to have, and what I would really suggest, is this really should be a meeting with the district. We can certainly individually, outside of a public comment, and we can certainly work through that, and I'll make the commitment on behalf of all of us that we'll do everything we can within our power and that is appropriate to do what is right for your student. But it puts us in a very precarious position when we start talking about an individual student, because we really can't come back to a public meeting and respond. So
Okay.
can we set up some time subsequently and meet, and if you haven't already, and do that in an appropriate manner?
Yeah, we're 100% up for doing that. We just want our voice to be heard, share our story, our experiences, some good, some bad.
I will hear your story.
You will hear our story?
You'll hear your story.
Yes.
You will be
Yes.
heard. You folks, we will meet. Warren will be with me, and you will be heard in my office.
They like to say that's kind of our main thing is, we moved to Whitman in 2016, absolutely love it here. We love the small town feel, the community that we're a part of. I coach my daughter's soccer team. We do take part of the community.
And just as a comment, I'm very aware of that situation, and it was unfortunate. Things are in place now that won't ever happen again. Of that specific situation with the volcano. So apologize for that. But you'll be heard. Michelle is our administrative assistant. She'll reach out to you, and we'll set up a time in the next, 3 to 5 days.
Okay.
That's appropriate, okay?
Okay, yeah, that
Thank you.
sounds good then.
Thank you
Thank you,
both for
folks.
coming forward.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Folks, please don't forget your pictures.
Yes.
And tell
Yes.
that young man I'll be cheering for his team.
Thank you.
You've got Bruins on there.
Bruins fan.
Good for him.
Do we have anyone else here for public comment? So at this point, I'd like to recognize Mr. Cullity, who had sent a letter in to myself and some other folks, Jeff, and give him an opportunity to address the committee.
Thank you. Going to read it off here so I don't go off script here, get you guys in trouble or anything. Yesterday, I gave my resignation from the school committee. With the issues I have with my family and not able to commit and devote significant time and energy required to efficiently service our district and community as a school committee member, and it would not be fair to the district if I could not give it 100%. It was a tough decision that I was making. My wife and family are the top priority, and she has always supported me for the last 20 years of either being recreation committee for 5 years, school committee for 8 years, coaching soccer, helping in any of the sports or scouting activities my sons might have been in. My biggest regret here is not seeing the fully funded kindergarten. Really, that's a missed opportunity. It should be pre-K because we missed the boat on the kindergarten. Because every child in this district does need an education, not just the ones that can pay for it. With that, I wish everybody here success and hopefully a great year. And the chair will make all the appropriate notifications and explain what the next phases are.
Yeah. So,
Thank
Dan, I think you're going to try and come by at least for maybe one more, if possible.
If I
and
can.
Maybe we'll at least, we'll find a way to have you come by one more time.
Because it was effective as of June 30th.
Yeah. So for those of you that want to share anything with Dan, we'll make sure there's an opportunity to do that. On behalf of all of us, I know that's a tough decision, Dan, and we appreciate your commitment to the committee. And we also understand, or at least I understand, for me, family always comes first. So in terms of where we go from here, Jeff and I have been in contact with Whitman and talked a little bit about what we need to do. Because this is new ground for me and I think probably for Jeff and probably for most of us. And so we will be meeting with the Board of Selectmen Chair and Lincoln and just making sure that we're clear on next steps. But our understanding, so the public and the committee is clear on what happens, is that the regional agreement does have a provision that explicitly covers this type of situation. So I'm just going to read it to you. It's very brief. If a vacancy occurs among the members elected under subsections 1B and 1C, 1C is the permanent committee, 1B was the pre-committee. Remember that regional agreement had a temporary committee. Acting jointly, the selectmen and the remaining committee members from the town concerned shall within 30 days appoint a member to serve until the next election, at which time a successor shall be elected to serve for the balance of the unexpired term, if any. So essentially what that means is the 5 school committee members that remain from Whitman, as well as the 5 Board of Selectmen, have the latitude to then fill the vacancy. So our collective charge at this point is to try and make sure that that group comes together because there is a 30-day timeline. So this isn't on the agenda. I really don't want to do a lot of discussion here. I wanted to make sure that we give Dan the latitude to share what he shared, and I appreciate him following the appropriate procedure to do so. And I did also want to at least cover what happens in the situation because I know some of you certainly would have questions. I know this is new to many of you. So are we good? Okay so far? Okay.
Yes.
Great. And thank you again, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay. So we're going to officially close public comment. And we are going to quickly try and go through the minutes. If we can, we will not have a student advisory report. Ms. Flynn is not with us tonight. I believe she is at a track meet, so send her some positive energy and perhaps some water. But first order of business here is minutes. So I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes for May 17th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Great, unanimous, thank you. I would entertain a motion to accept the meeting's minutes of May 12th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of March 17th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Any discussion? Great. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Just as a housekeeping note, I meant to mention it, Ms. Byers will be joining us. She did give me a heads up. She is attending a function for her daughter right down the hall, and Mr. Forrest did notify us that he is unable to attend tonight. So we'll now move into the superintendent's report, and I think, Jeff?
Thanks, Chris. So we will start today with the Dr. John F. McEwen Award for 2021. The Dr. John F. McEwen Do What's Best for Kids Award was established in 2015 by Mrs. Margaret McEwen. Each year, the award is presented to recognize an unsung hero or heroes who is a member of the staff or team employed by the district, who has demonstrated extraordinary vision, creativity, competence, and execution of his or her job responsibilities. This may include initiatives that impact the models of teaching and learning in and out of the classroom, improve the design or delivery of curriculum or services offered to students, improve the atmosphere for teaching and learning, such as in the delivery of support services to the students or through district operations, including technology, food services, facilities and maintenance, and business services. A recognition plaque is displayed in the vestibule of the Dr. John F. McEwen Performing Arts Center. The recipient or recipients receive a $500 monetary award to be used toward classes or professional development opportunities. Dr. McEwen was the Whitman Hanson Regional School District Superintendent of Schools from 2001 to 2009. His career in education spanned over 41 years. To present that award tonight is Mrs. Margaret McEwen, and I'd invite her to the podium.
Welcome.
I have never addressed a school committee before. This is a first for all the years that I heard about school committees. Thank you very much, Jeff and George, for inviting me to participate tonight in presenting this award, and for allowing me to continue to recognize John's legacy at the Whitman Hanson School District. Some of the things were just mentioned in Jeff's introduction, so I'm going to try to skip over. When John announced his retirement from Whitman Hanson, a reporter asked him what he felt his legacy was to the district. Although he was very proud of the collaborative effort in designing and building this high school, John said he felt his legacy was personal relationships that he had established with a number of different people, wide audience of people. He had a reputation for identifying and acknowledging whoever made contributions to the school community, students, teachers, staff, parents, members of the school committee, or the community at large. John believed that a school was not a building, but a community of support that maximizes personal growth and development for all students and staff. To capture what John valued most, my family and I created the Do What's Best for Kids Award. In addition to recognizing the outstanding individuals since the award's inception, the nomination process helps to create a climate district-wide for the staff to be observant of people who exhibit excellence in carrying out their everyday duties, especially those who may be among the unsung everyday heroes who make a difference in students' lives. John was the first to admit he was not mechanically inclined. So much so that in high school, he thought he should get a job at a hardware store to improve this skill deficiency. The store manager recognized immediately that his new hire had a steep learning curve when he overheard John telling a customer that the store did not sell Phillips screwdrivers. But they did offer a wide selection of the Stanley brand. I fixed most of the stuff in the house. John was an idealist and also a realist. He valued everyone's talents and tried to motivate everyone to use their talents to the best of his or her ability. This year's recipient represents the very best of the Whitman Hanson School District. And I didn't realize that he wouldn't know until now. So he'll know when I read this. By providing a safe and protected learning environment to deliver in-person learning for students and staff. By improving the design of airflow with the installation of the I-Wave, which would have been far beyond John's understanding of the movement of air. And by reconfiguring classroom and office setup for social distancing during the COVID pandemic. I know that John truly valued Ernie Sandlin, the Director of Facilities and Management, Facilities, right? Facilities. For all he contributed to the Whitman Hanson Regional School District. No matter what anyone asked of Ernie, he would make every effort to make it happen. Moreover, Ernie has always been an innovator who works tirelessly to support kids through safe and well-maintained buildings. Soon as the pandemic began, Ernie knew the airflow and air quality would be an issue. He began researching safe and effective ways to help with this problem. He had an engineer do a proposal for an ultraviolet light system. However, the cost and inefficiency to regulate individual classrooms due to their unique venting system made this improbable. He went back to the drawing board and discovered the I-Wave. One morning last summer, Ernie excitedly called Jeff and George to come see him in an art classroom in the Conley School. Upon arrival, Ernie and Joe Dillon from operations had a classroom heating system pulled apart and were holding a small device. The I-Wave is a piece of equipment that mounts to the fan infiltration system of these classroom vents and traps dust and harmful particles through an ionization method. Having this type of unit installed in all schools would purify the air and combat the coronavirus issue. Ernie had all the scientific documentation on hand, as well as the pricing, delivery, and et cetera. Everything was worked out. This was newer technology, and Ernie had even identified its availability by locating tracked shipments from a warehouse in Michigan that he said were on a flatbed now. Once given the green light to proceed, the air infiltration system was never an issue for the students and staff alike throughout the district. Many communities scrambled to get air purifier systems, but the demand was too great. Due to Ernie's early diagnosis, research, and persistence, all classrooms and buildings were equipped before students arrived at the beginning of the school year. Ernie's actions went a long way to help the district secure a memorandum of understanding with the WHEA Teachers Union as to how the work environment would look during the pandemic. Staff and students alike faced many difficult challenges this year, but thankfully, worrying about air quality was not one of them. It is for these reasons that Ernie Sandlin is the overwhelming choice of by the leadership team and the WHEA for the 2020-21 Do What's Best for Kids Award. As you heard earlier, Ernie's name will be added to the plaque in the front of the foyer at the Dr. John F. McEwen Performing Arts Center, and he'll receive a cash award that he can use towards his professional development or for a project that would benefit his department. Please join me in congratulating Ernie Sandlin as the recipient of the 2021 Do What's Best.
You deserve a Phillips screwdriver.
Yeah, an engraved one.
John knew I knew what a Phillips screwdriver
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie.
Ernie.
I'll take Whitman, yeah.
All right, thank you, Mrs. McEwen, and congratulations, Ernie. We're going to take a couple things out of order, I think,
Yep,
Jeff?
appreciate that. So, Whitman Town Meeting, we have some special guests in the back. Are members of our Student Environmental Action Club, their advisor, Mr. Kozak. If you were at Whitman Town Meeting, they were able to present. Thank you, Mr. Evans, for making that motion and allowing students to be able to speak at town meeting, even though they were guests. And I'd like them to tell us what they did, because it's pretty remarkable as a student body.
Hello, my name is Jenna Lacey, a recently graduated senior, and I was the president of the Student Environmental Action Club this year. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our club and what we do. SEEK has been active at Whitman Hanson Regional High School for decades, undertaking such projects as gardening, recycling, and other environmentally conscious initiatives. We've worked hard to make our school a greener place, and we're always on the lookout for new opportunities to make a difference. Let me pass things off to our new president, Riley Getchell, to tell you more about our recent accomplishment of passing a plastic bag ban and a polystyrene container ban in Whitman.
The beginning of our recent drive to add environmentally friendly bylaws to Whitman actually began in October of 2019. We worked with the local organization Green Hanson to enact a plastic bag ban and polystyrene ban in Hanson. We learned quite a bit and were excited by the opportunity to help with that initiative. This year, we committed to doing the same in Whitman. With advice from Green Hanson and guidance from Selectman Evans, we learned more about the process of adding a new bylaw. We planned persuasive arguments, went into our community to get signatures, and submitted our articles for the warrant. We were pleased to be asked by the voters of Whitman to speak at the town hall last Wednesday. It was an incredible experience to be a part of the democratic process. We'd like to thank them for hearing us out and taking action to help their local community and the world. We feel just as energized by this success as we did last year in Hanson, and we can't wait to do more.
Thank you, folks. Congratulations. I think that was pretty awesome. And you represent us very well. Thank you, Mr. Kozak. On top of that, at Whitman Town Meeting, I want to just thank the residents of Whitman for fully supporting us in our assessment for the fiscal 2022. And I also want to thank the citizens of Whitman for supporting non-mandated busing for the students of Whitman. Couple of things were said at town meeting, and a couple of shots across my bow. If you choose to watch the town meeting, I choose not to engage in that in a public forum. If members or if folks who have things to say to me, I'd appreciate a phone call, not in a public setting. I still think this committee and this district needs to work with our partners in both communities, establish clear lines of communication, and it's my hope to work with Ms. Lisa Green in Hanson and Mr. Lincoln Heineman in Whitman so that we can avoid some of the minutia of emails back and forth, and the departments, the town administrators can speak to me, and through you folks moving forward. Again, I appreciate both communities. We have a fiscal 22 budget before the end of July, and it's helpful to us. This is the first year, and I will say it, it's the first year in my tenure we haven't had to pink slip teachers. We are fully funding what we want to fund at this point. Thank you to the school committee for supporting our budget as presented. We will have a great program in place in September when the students return to normal, which we hope, and I'll go over some of the guidelines later on. But thank you to Whitman and Hanson at your town meetings, and I look for a continued communication and partnership with the leadership of both communities. So thank you on that. Also, a question at Whitman Town Meeting that came and was voted into play was the Capital Committee. We will have one school committee member that will be appointed by the Board of Selectmen in Whitman to serve on the Capital Committee. Chris and I are kind of working through what does that mean. I did speak to the chair that's on the Capital Committee now, and his definition was we will have a voting member on the Capital Committee. Currently, it was an advisor, and they didn't have voting rights, but Chris and I are trying to work through to see what does that mean when that voting member represents this committee. So I think we will be speaking to members of the selectmen and their thought process on that, but I wanted to share with this committee that the Board of Selectmen will select a member from this committee to serve as an equal partner on the Capital Committee in Whitman. The other piece of capital, most of our capital projects were funded. I do think we need to revisit with that new Capital Committee the depletion of the Duval roof monies and see what the long-term effects may be, and Mr. Stanlin will be involved in those conversations. But our capital requests, as far as phone, as far as fire panel, and things like that we requested, were voted upon and approved. Chris, you want to add anything on capital?
No, I think just briefly, so I think collectively all worked hard on making sure that we're all executing the will of the committee and that we're all on the same page. So I think with this kind of committee and appointment, we're just trying to make sure that there's clarity. I think the question that came up, someone from the audience at Whitman Town Meeting asked the question of, well, will this impact the schools and what they do? And the answer was no, the school projects will still remain. So certainly we want to make sure we have a great partnership with Whitman. We're there to support that, absolutely, but at the same time, it's always easier to set an expectation and make sure everyone's on the same page at the beginning than say we get halfway through something and then we're all kind of looking at each other. So we will report back to the committee once we've had that conversation and make sure we're all on the same page there.
You can jump in, unless you want me to evaluate myself.
You'd probably prefer to evaluate yourself. Although I'm not sure it would be very different. All right, so the superintendent's end-of-year summative evaluation. We're going to do this a little bit differently this year. And so what I wanted to do is just kind of share a summary for the public. These are public documents. Anyone can request them. In the past, we've read some of the comments, all the comments. I'm not going to read the comments. So I think what I'd like to do is just kind of go through the key summary of the results. So we had 9 members complete the evaluation. As a reminder, those were completed by those that were on the committee prior to the May elections. Of the document, the summary itself, we had an overall 7 proficient for the superintendent and 2 exemplary. So if you look at the overall rating scale, that's a fairly favorable evaluation with 7 committee members voting proficient and the 2 exemplary. In terms of feedback, I think Jeff, we talked about this a little bit. He appreciates the feedback. He'll take them whenever you'd like. And like I said, I'm not going to read the comments. However, I think because it is, this is on the agenda, I would certainly open it up to any committee member that would like to share a comment and provide that. I'd like to keep that to, if we can, a couple minutes. Certainly, there's no obligation to share comments, but this is the time. We're evaluating the superintendent, so if you have a comment to share, by all means, now would be the time. Mr. Boyce.
I just want to say that I always appreciate Jeff's incredibly hard work. We went into a pandemic in the last fiscal year. We stayed in a pandemic for the current fiscal year. I just never saw him letting up to make sure what we had to do. I often say, being in a blue-collar community like Whitman and living there my whole life, he's not afraid to roll up his sleeves and do the work that everyone else is doing. I could picture him, I know he'd make George do it first, but moving all the desks and everything else. In fact, I was almost to a point saying, can we postpone this meeting because we might need Jeff on the ice on Long Island tonight. That's how much I think of him. I always appreciate, Jeff, what you do for us. You're the guy that came to us at the right time, the right place.
Thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Any other comments? So I do have, sorry, Fred, yes, please.
One comment that I made I would like to share.
Yeah.
And that is, I felt it was virtually impossible to be able to fill out a proper form. This was a pandemic year, and if we're giving our report based upon what our strategic plan was and hitting your goals and you hitting your goals, I felt it was very unfair to have to do an evaluation because there were so many other obstacles there. And that was part of my comments.
Okay. The one thing that I missed, and I'll just go through this quickly, I think there's a balance between providing public enough detail and not going overboard. So you got the overalls. I'm just going to read real quick the goals themselves and what the school committee's rated. So step 1, assess progress towards goals. Professional practice goal, 1 significant progress, 5 met, 2 exceeded. Student learning goal, 2 significant progress, 4 met, 2 exceeded. District improvement goal, 2 significant progress, 4 met, 2 exceeded. Step 2 on the form, which was assess performance on standards. Standard 1, instructional leadership, 7 proficient, 2 exemplary. Standard 2, which was management and operations, 1 needs improvement, 4 proficient, 4 exemplary. Standard 3, family and community engagement, 1 needs improvement, 6 proficient, and 2 exemplary. Standard 4, professional culture, 7 proficient, 2 exemplary, and then I gave you the overall, which was 7 proficient and 2 exemplary. So again, these are public records. If anyone wants them, I'm sure Jeff would be happy to put those out. Otherwise, any other comments? Jeff, you have anything?
No, I
The
just,
last word.
if any of the comments, I haven't really reviewed the entire, everybody's entire evaluation. If you want to speak to me on it, you've made comments, I'll follow up. Because we want to get, if you're seeing some deficiencies or you see areas of improvement, let me know. I think this year, going into goals, it's going to be better for me not making goals in October and try to meet them by April. I think we have a plan in place, and it will be beneficial for me to drive this district forward. I just got to say, the people in this district work their tails off. You got Ernie back there, you got teachers rolling up their sleeves, and the past, it truly shines the past 3 days when it's 95 degrees, and some of our classrooms don't have air conditioning. So everything that I do is because they allow me to do my job. So thank you for your eval, and if there are certain things you would like me to do, or you would like me to do better, please let me know, and we can talk. Thank you, though. Appreciate it. We're back to business.
Back to your superintendent's report.
George, summer programs update. Ernie, you're off the hook. You have nothing. This was just a fake you out to get you here today. Yeah.
Yeah, poor guy's got his binder.
Good evening. If I could I have a couple of things to speak on, but I think they all go together. So I'm wondering if we could do the summer programs. I'm wondering if we could do the assessment diagnostic and then the job description for the interventionists together, because they sort of all meld.
Sounds great. I mean, you were a little slow getting up to the podium, so this will speed us along. You're fine.
All righty. So if we talk first about summer programming, we said some of our summer programs, they're varied in interest, so I'll go school by school. The high school obviously has a wide offering that ranges from academic summer school that we all know traditionally in our heads for students who need to make up their classes. They also have an at-risk program that targets some students who are already in high school and then other students who are entering high school or 8th grade rising. They also have a plethora of sports initiatives, they have a plethora of academic camps, and they have educational camps inside the building. Science camp obviously is the big one, and 3D camp. You will also note Chris Jones has put all of that out so that is everywhere in the district. Last time we talked, DARE camp is not running. That's not necessarily a part of the Whitman Hanson Regional School District, but it's always been held at the Whitman Hanson Regional School District. And that is not running. That was what the DARE, the SROs, felt that they didn't want to do this year due to the pandemic. If we go to the Whitman and Hanson Middle Schools, they are running two programs. They are running an in-person 3-week sports activities camp that people can go to. Either school child can go to either building. That's fine with them. But Mr. Scarpelli is running it. Mr. Ryan, I believe, is running. Mr. Wilson is running it at Hanson Middle School. And then they are also having an at-home remedial online tutorial camp. That will run for 4 weeks. That'll begin on July 5th, and it will run through the 30th of July. And that'll be 4 days a week, 2 hours a day. And they'll have staff who are monitoring the work for the invited students who might not have done as well on their third quarter or their third assessment, so that they can get some reinforcement throughout the summer. When we go down to the elementary schools, the one in-person camp is Camp Conley. That is an in-person camp that has both enrichment activities and also an academic component. When we all children from Hanson and Whitman, the three schools, can go to that camp in person. We also have two tutorial camps, remedial camps online at both Indian Head and Duval. The last time I was here, we were murky on what was happening from an academic standpoint at the middle schools, and that has now been cleared up. So that we also have preschool has their traditional activities in the summer for the students that are of need, as well as the ESY program that happens, the extended school year program that happens for students if they need it according to their IEP. That's sort of an encapsulation of what takes place for summer activities. If there are, yeah.
The Conley program that is both academic and
Enrichment.
enrichment. You said it's open to all students in the district, elementary students in the district?
Elementary students only.
And is there a registration fee for that?
There is a registration fee, but that registration fee also comes with scholarships in the same amount of money I'm putting aside towards the Duval and the Indian Head components. So basically what we're doing is we've put the fee as low as we can based on enrollment, so that's students, if they want to attend that, because there's more staff that's needed because it's an in-person event, can have a lower price point.
Okay. I think what I'm getting at is if there are students at Duval and Indian Head who were recommended in needing academic support over the summer, can they then register at Conley to get that in-person academic help? Is that
Sure.
an option? Okay.
They would, so what would happen in that instance is that they would be invited from their host school, let's say it's the Duval school, to take part in the online enrichment. However, if that person then so chose to go to the in-person one at the camp, they can either go to that additionally and do both, or their costs would be offset if they just go to that one.
Okay. And how are we notifying families that that option is available to them at Conley?
The individual schools are notifying them, or because all of the pamphlets went out to everybody in the district, the parents themselves. But if there's a question, they should notify their school principal first, who can then help them sort through that.
Okay. I think sometimes it's just getting information into the hands of the families to know what decisions they have. So I just wanted to make sure that they have that
Yeah, and
information
I'll talk to the
available
principals
to them.
tomorrow to make sure it's
Whether
clear.
it's an email from the school district to all those elementary families, I don't know.
To be honest with you, I don't know the selection process. That's what's taken place. So the school does. So the school has sent them all out.
Okay,
Not a
think-
central office piece.
okay. But it is open to any family that wants to register at Conley, that it's not specifically students that are in academic need. I think
Correct.
I'm trying to
Correct. So
Okay.
so if you're a student who's not in academic need and your parent wants you to go to a 3-week
Okay, Conley.
Conley, you've already received that information. All you have to do is sign up.
Okay.
There is a fee associated with the Conley one, just due to the size and due to the activities and this extra staff that is needed.
Sure, thank you.
If
Go ahead.
no, you go.
You were gonna say.
No, you go.
Right, you were in the middle. So my question, I guess, maybe is building off that a little bit, for the remote piece. You know, I know that the schools are identifying students who are on, you know, if we're looking at the data like the tier 3, is there any, or are there any things available for students on tier 2 or tier 1? So if, hypothetically speaking, if a student, you know, if a parent has a child who's on tier 1, but I still want my child to practice iReady over the summer, is that program available? Like, when do we roll over our license? Could we push it and do it in June? Could we push it to August? Because I know that when, I'm jumping ahead because I was looking at the data, but if we're talking about students being at benchmark grade level achievement, is that enough, right? Like, so are we offering something for students to push them? Like, I'm looking towards MCAS, right?
Sure.
So if everyone's proficient, that's okay, but we really want everyone to be advanced.
Sure.
Or more people to be advanced.
Sure.
So do we have opportunities for students who haven't been identified as needing remedial help but still want that practice because they want to move up or they want to keep proficiency? Because we know there's summer, you know, the summer lag anyway. Do we have anything? Are these programs available?
So what usually, excuse me, what usually happens at the school level by the teacher is that there's optional summer reading, and then there's optional academic websites that they can go to. We have a page on our website that was created during the pandemic that offers anything you want to move forward with. At the elementary, everybody also has MobiMax, and we also have Lexia licenses for phonemic awareness throughout the summer. So those things have been communicated, and speaking with the principals, those things are communicated through the classroom teacher to their class. Again, it's an optional, but there are enrichment activities that people are exposed to should they want to be.
Okay, so if I wanted next Friday, you know, it's homework time for the Niffin kids, can they access things on the Chromebooks at home so that they can keep up with their enrichment over the summer?
From what I've been told, until August 1st, they can. Then we're going to roll it.
Okay.
Now, with the students who are identified in the iReady program itself, that is a little bit trickier, and I believe the way we're doing it is a separate roster of students under the teacher who's going to run the program, so that if they're not in that program, they can access the iReady program through their teacher of record who they just had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So iReady is the one that would not be available over the summer?
No, what I'm saying is if you're in the academic program and you, as a mom, wanted your kids to be a part of it, you would have it, but it would not be necessarily under the same classroom teacher that you had. It might be under the teacher now. That roster where you log in would be under the teacher that is running that summer program.
But do the students have to be enrolled in that summer program?
That's if you're enrolled in that summer program. If I'm not explaining myself clearly, I'm sorry. So if Chris Scriven is running the summer program and 27 kids are in that program, they would access it through Chris Scriven's roster. If teacher of record is Ms. Bourgeois for random fourth grade, those kids would still access it the same way should they want to continue.
Okay, but they don't necessarily have to be enrolled in that?
No, it's just they still have access that way.
Okay.
Because it's through Clever, and Clever is the different portal that you have to have rostered.
And that's until August 1st, correct, George?
That is until August 1st, and then we would formally roll.
Yep.
I think it's also important that next year as we go forward, that everybody knows that what we're going to discuss with our diagnostic results for reading is from HMH, which is Hope Mifflin product on reading levels, and next year we have purchased through the budget that has passed the iReady diagnostic for reading also. So both students and teachers will have the same exact dashboard, the same exact access to reports, and students will know exactly the path that they have in math. They'll have a path in reading also. If we do look at the diagnostic results, if you start with the triangles first, if that which is math, I think the only thing I really want to highlight, because we've talked about them, this is the third time, is the total overall placement. If you look at the, on your left, if you look at the top of the triangle, that's a red triangle. That would be for math. That would be 6% of our students are in red. And red, if you remember, basically means you're at 2 grade levels or below. Those students are any student who has of any academic makeup in the district. So those could be your EL population. Those could be students with disabilities. Those could be students who are not achieving for some other reason. If you look at that, that was at 10 in the winter, so we have gained 4 percentage points on that. If you look at Tier 2, which is yellow, yellow is you're either on or 1 grade below. And the reason why I say on is because you're at the very low end. That's how they measure it. For example, we're in the 9th month of grade 4 right now. But if you're a 4.1, you'd still be in yellow. So yes, you're at your grade level, but you're low in your grade level, as like you'd be in September. So that's the definition of yellow. And we moved from 51%, or half our students overall in elementary school, to 34%. And if you look at Tier 2, if you look at Tier 1, which is green, green is on or above grade level. So that would be right now, if you're a 4.9, you're on, and then, or if it registers that you're a 5.3, you're above grade level. So that's what green means, and that's 60% of our students. So we have a long way to go in order to push everyone out of the red and yellow to get them all in green in Excel, but that's where we're at in math, and you can see we've made those gains in math. That's overall, so that's 1,400 students out of 1,500 students. That's what that measured. If we go to the 2 pages later, which is not very pretty, because, and you have one that was blown up a little bit more. I still have my comprehensive contact lenses in, so I'm reading from a smaller one. This would be your growth report for reading. I would just like to look at the very first line that says all grades. For this one, in the format of the report, it goes from most recent end of year all the way back to the beginning of year. And you can see, I believe, Mr. Scriven, it should be the 3rd page that you have right there.
This?
Yeah, two more after that, right?
I just got one.
Okay. All grades. So when you look at this for end of year, you're looking at 19.1% of the students not below grade level. You're looking at 59.2% of the students on grade level, and 21.7% of the students above grade level. So in this sense, the reading levels of the students there's a little bit more work that we need to do in order to get those grades up. Reading is a little more, the foundations of reading sometimes a little more complex than the foundations of mathematics, but there is work that needs to be done. However, if you compare that to the far right, at the beginning of the year, we were at 39% below grade level. We were at 54% at grade level, and we were at 6.2 only above grade level. So if we're talking about what did this year mean in a pandemic, I think that a hybrid model, which focused on in-person learning for math and ELA, allowed students to make gains. I don't think they made the gains that they would have had been in school all year in a regular year. I think it's going to be very interesting to see and tell what does 1 year from now these look like, because what is it going to show? And it's also going to let us know how well our remote students did, how well teaching via technology does, and it's going to provide some insight into the steps that we need to take. But you're really looking at 2 years from now to compare, if we could compare apples for apples, when kids are in school 183 days.
This is more comment, not to a question, but as an English teacher, reading at home is really important.
Yes.
Right? So reading is very different from math, because math you can figure it out, you can memorize facts, but you need to practice the skill of reading and hearing language. So families at home, that's really important considering we're coming up on summer. Right? 20 minutes a day, 20 minutes every other day makes a huge difference in a kid.
Yep, and that's part of the elementary remedial aspect program also. That's built in.
And George, just as a reminder for those that are watching, so this is our first year, right? So
Yes.
in a perfect world, it would have been beautiful if we'd done this 2 years ago, because this would be super helpful to see how the pandemic impacted us. What you're saying is now we got to kind of wait until next year to kind of go backwards, but it is what it is. But just in case anyone's wondering,
Very true.
how did we compare to last year? This is our first year where we were able
Very
to
true.
use.
This is the first time we've done formal assessments, and as thankful to all of you and the taxpayers in both towns to support it, we now have these programs in place. And we're moving forward with these types of programs. Next year, and that's a beautiful segue, because you're also looking at two job descriptions that you have in front of you. Because what this is that we're now taking these assessments to the next level. And we're now saying, how do we make sure that kids are learning at a pace that is helpful for them? For those of you who need to look at the job description, it's behind the calendar. So if you look in your packet with the calendar sticking out, it's a couple of pages behind the calendar. And they look at district-level academic interventionists, elementary and secondary, and building-level math interventionists, elementary only. If you can find them behind the calendar, you'd be on the same page, be all together.
I think it's easier to go from the very end of your packet, just a couple pages, right? Or is that the tech coach?
I won, I got it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here.
Almost at the very end. So it's the district academic interventionist and the elementary math interventionist?
Yes,
Those
that's
are the
what you're
two.
looking at.
So why don't I would entertain a motion to accept the job description for the district academic interventionist.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
This is for elementary and secondary?
Correct. The makeup at the elementary school is a separate math and a separate English language arts. The makeup at the secondary is one, grades 6 through 12, because there's more oversight from coordination at the secondary level as you go higher, whereas there's 6 to 12 coordination. So then we have one interventionist meeting with the coordinators also, whereas at the elementary level, we have one coordinator, so we have two separate subject area interventionists.
Yeah. Lori?
Is that why the qualifications for the elementary and secondary is 5 years, but for the elementary is 3 years of experience?
Yeah, because they get to specialize a little bit more, yes.
Don?
Looking at the math interventionist,
The building level, yes.
for secondary schools, middle school, I'm looking back at this data also. So 5th grade math, in the winter it was 16% in the red, and most recent 15%. So it looks like the data compared to the grades 1 through 4, 5th grade, really sort of stayed steady. So those students will be moving up to 6th grade, needing this interventionist, right, that we will have?
Right, they'll also have a 5th grade intervention, so the K-5 interventionist will also be working with them, but as they matriculate into middle school, yes, they're going to have a different plan. They will be using IXL for their assessments, but they will have the benefit of the district interventionist, and then they also have what's called academic extension, which is that block during the day that we're going to formalize for Tier 1, Tier 2 students within the classroom, and then formalize with small group out of the classroom built into the day.
Okay. Yeah, because it looks like we would want to make sure we're supporting those
Correct.
students.
Correct, and the
'Cause
reason...
some of them sort of held steady.
Right, they held at their
Yeah.
baseline. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the reason why we have building level elementary math interventionists is because we already have reading specialists. So with some retirements, with some things of that nature, we're saying that there is a reading specialist and now a math interventionist who are working with that school-based team and the district team in order to help students move forward.
Is this a new position? You're going to hire someone for this position?
Yeah, these are positions that have been posted internally, and then these were part of the program that we're using some of our federal ESSER 3 money for so that we can support for the next few years.
Full-time position for how many people?
This is a full-time position for 2 people at the elementary and 1 person at the secondary.
And secondary would be what?
6 to 12, grades 6 to 12. So we'll be doing assessments formally in grades 6 to K to 12 next year.
So these people do not teach during the
They will have the ability to do small group, but one of the main things they're going to do is teach teachers and teach staff how to make sure that we're reaching kids and from a intervention or strategic standpoint throughout the course of their teaching and learning day.
Their main goal is to get these numbers up, is that?
Their main goal is to get kids at reading at their grade level expectations or higher.
Do you feel that these people, rather than Spanish, rather than art, this is more important?
I feel at this point in time, this is, yes, much more important, especially for the students who are in the greatest need. We've never had it in this district, and teachers do a great job themselves trying, but we need targeted intervention, especially coming off of the pandemic, to make sure that we can bolster and help our kids.
Fred?
And that's why I just want, and this is part of the remediation, being able to assess where students are, where they may have slipped, and help them
Move forward.
Exactly.
And I think also what we don't want to get lost in this is the fact that this will also help students who are at grade level.
Right.
So if you're a student who's at grade level, you now have the opportunity built into your day and built into your activities to extend beyond that. And then that's where the conversation comes, once we're solid with the intervention piece, is what's next? What does a robust related arts program look like? Or what does things for students already at grade level, what can we do for them also?
Okay. Anyone else? Hillary?
When do we, in the district, or when do you start leveling students in math and ELA?
There is no leveling currently done until you get to the high school.
Okay. Chris?
What's leveling?
Tracking,
Tracking?
like
Yeah.
level 1, level 2, college prep, standard, basic, advanced, whatever you know from your lexicon. We used to do it at the middle school level for math. We don't do it anymore because they changed the standards, and now we have a cyclical approach that's early algebraic sooner.
Don, did you have something?
Yeah, question on the funding. You mentioned the ESSER funds were that these positions were being funded by the ESSER funds.
That is the goal as we begin.
Okay. I think I'm confused because I thought when we were looking at the budget and we approved it, it was the need for the special ed programs, and that's what the ESSER funds were.
It's both.
Going to be
Because
used.
these were only internal, you have some people who, based on class size, and some people based on class role and the role that they have now, those positions have been assumed that they can now become these people without a hit to the budget. You have others who are going to be backfilled through grants and backfilled through ESSER and circuit breaker, because there is also circuit breaker or special ed funding that plays a role in this.
Okay.
So George, let me ask it another way. So,
Good idea.
yeah, so when we approved the budget,
Right.
as a school committee, there were a number of initiatives. The intervention was a part of it, and then we talked about allocating some ESSER funds as well. Are we changing that funding spend at all?
No,
As part of this?
not at all.
Okay, I just want to make sure. But you have more, Don? Sorry.
No, I just want to understand the budget that we approved, because we do approve the budget based on, staff and positions. And so we know going forward, as next year we have a budget, what those one-time funds were used for versus what is in the approved $57 million operating budget. Because these funds from ESSER supplement that on top.
Sure.
And as we go through the years, that top supplement is going to be reduced.
Right,
And
but I-
something is going to have to give at some point, so.
Right, so I also think, when we talk about what's to come, I think the most important thing is that we get the baseline and we start these projects to move forward. Because as you look at population trends, as you look at retirement trends, as you look at shifts in towns, you can see, if you extrapolate those numbers out far enough, that there are going to be opportunities to keep these positions alive and not necessarily just keep adding to the budget.
Okay,
You know,
to absorb them.
Yeah, to
and-
absorb them within
Okay.
the current existing budget that we still have.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other discussion? Great. We'll move that to a vote. All of those in favor of approving the district academic interventionist job description? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Great. I would accept a motion to accept the job description for the elementary math interventionist.
So moved.
Second?
I'll open it up to discussion, but I think we already had some pretty healthy cross-discussion on this, so I'm hoping we can kind of somewhat limit this. Mr. Scriven, Chris, you got anything?
Just a vote.
Chris is all right, you're on the same page. Any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Abstaining? Great.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
South Shore Educational Collaborative update, it's in your packet. It's not really a talking item, it's just an update. The collaborative provides me an update as a member of the board, just a reading item where the budget's at, what the collaborative's new move is as far as doing some things over at Randolph High, their contract with their employees, et cetera. So it's just really an update for you from the collaborative.
Fantastic.
Any questions? John, Mr. Tuffy, you want to talk about first student, please?
And no pressure, John, but I know we were looking for about a 2-hour target for this meeting. We're starting to fall a little behind, but you can get us back on track.
I'll talk as fast as I can, and if you don't ask questions, it'll go quicker.
Yeah, fair point. Can't promise that one.
So I'm going to speak a little bit tonight, and John Stanbrook will finish up. There are a couple of items here that really relate to time that I was here, and so I'm here to speak on those, and then John will take over. The first item has to do with the school bus contract, and it really is a case of trying to update you people and let you know how it all turned out, because we talked about having to go out to bid. We talked about it being a collaborative bid with Abington, which means that it's not an intermunicipal agreement. We could accept the proposals that we received. Abington could have rejected them. That's not the case in this case. But they were bid together, but it is awarded solely by each individual town. We went out for a 3-year bid with the 4th and 5th year being optional, and solely in the option of us, Whitman Hanson, as to whether we'd accept a 4th and 5th year. That's a decision to be made down the line. We advertised this bid on the 12th of April. It was available on the 12th of April, and we had a bid opening on the 14th of May, so there was lots of time for people to request it and look at it. We had 3 inquiries, which resulted in 2 organizations asking for bid packages and 1 bid, and the 1 bid was from First Student, people who have been our current provider and have been for some time. The results of the bid turned out to be favorable. Favorable to me means that we could afford it in what we projected in the budget. First year, the increase is 5.7%. Year 2 and 3 is 3%. And if the district chooses to extend it to 4 and 5, those are also 3%. Those increases that we're looking at are really in line with what I've seen in other districts, and frankly, less than what we saw the last increase. The last time we had a contract with First Student, the first year increase was 9.9%. Years 2 and 3 were 4%, and years 4 and 5 were at 3%. So that's how it turned out. The one thing that has come up on occasion, and that has to do with do we have the flexibility to make a change in service? Can we go from a bus that's making 4 tiers, meaning it's used 4 times in a day, to 3 times, or vice versa? Can we go from 2 to 3? Can we eliminate a bus because we've eliminated a route? If you look at the contract that you received, the contract is also the bid. The contract, and I think it's 7 pages in, it's on a page that says IFB requirements, general provisions, and it's 1.1. And I don't know if everybody is with me. If you look at the 3rd paragraph down, it says the regional collaborative reserves the right to increase or decrease the actual number of buses that will be used for these services as circumstances may require. The regional collaborative makes no representation or guarantee as to the number of buses that will be required throughout the contract term. So, I take that to mean that we can make changes. That's allowed in the contract by right. When I talked to Karen, our Director of Transportation, who has been here for some time, we have never had a case where we received any pushback from First Student when we made changes in routes, changes in whether they were 2 or 3 tier routes, and then frankly when we eliminated a number of buses back when Mequon was closed. And I would expect that would happen going forward. This language that's in this contract has been in the past number of contracts for some time. So it is not new, it's nothing strange, and frankly, it's been pretty well tested. So having said that, are there any particular questions?
So I think Jeff and I had talked about this a little bit prior, so before we kind of get into discussion. So I think the big thing with the bus contract, like John just talked about, is it gives us the opportunity to make sure that we look at this. So I know there's been a lot of discussion, mandated, non-mandated, in some of those components. And I think there was a commitment of, hey, looking at survey results and data and looking at that. But remember, the contract is for our mandated and non-mandated students.
Correct.
So we do need to have a contract in place for the fall. So I think there will be an additional conversation in the future pertaining to busing, but that doesn't mean that we can hold off here likely. So just want to kind of throw that out there. I got Don and then Fred.
I'm just curious why we bid together with Abington. Do we know historically how that started or why we do that?
Sure. So there are a couple of reasons. There are a couple of reasons for doing it the way we do. One is this is not an intermunicipal agreement between two municipalities, so we assume none of their risk, they assume none of our risk in the event that something happens. I believe the reason for going and combining these at some time ago had to do with coming up with a sizable number of buses that might attract somebody else to come into the market. If they were looking at bidding on a contract that was not just the 20 buses of Whitman Hanson or the 16 buses of Abington, but instead 36 buses, that might make it attractive for them to establish a yard. I mean, there are a fair amount of mobilization costs that go with this. The number of buses that you have to acquire, on-site management to deal with drivers, having to hire drivers, having to train drivers, and having to have a place to park the buses, get a parts inventory, and engage contractors who will both work on the buses out of your yard and your own maintenance people. So it's enough people that you might come and expand your business. On the other hand, since you can bid these separately, we might have somebody who says, well, I will throw in a bid that I know I can handle, and we wind up with them. This was all done under Chapter 30B. So that was the reason to make it a more attractive bid and invite bigger players.
Okay. It's not necessarily because we get savings or Abington gets savings. The
Well,
rate is the rate?
We would hope that doing it this way would get us the best possible price.
Okay. Okay. But in the end, we get one bid back
In
traditionally.
the end, we got one bid. And unfortunately, I will tell you that is not an uncommon occurrence. When the town of Pembroke went out for bid, they got a bid. When the town of Silver Lake went out, the towns that make up Silver Lake went out for bid, they got a bid. When the town of Duxbury went out for a bid, they got a bid. It is changing, but it's changing very slowly. When it came to last year, when the town of Sandwich went out for bids, they got 2. When Falmouth went out for bids, they got 2. Perhaps the time will come that we will get 2 or more.
Fred?
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple quick things. One, do we know how much the base price of the fuel adjustment is? I see that they reference April 1st, 2020 for ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel in Boston. Do we know what that cost was calculated at?
If you'll bear with me for just a second, there is very specific language that deals with the fuel adjustment clause. This contract has a fuel adjustment clause that neither we nor the contractor have taken the risk that we can predict what the price of diesel fuel will be for the next 3 to 5 years. So we agreed on, what we did was something that's pretty common, and that is you pick a commonly available price, and then as it goes up or down from that price, we either get a reduction or an increase.
The only reference I see is just the price in Boston on April 1st, 2020.
What's the reference, if you'll help me here, because I'm looking at it.
1.8.1.
So I'm going to tell you when I get all done that I don't know what the price is at this point in time, but it's we're able to look it up.
Okay, I just didn't know if you had had
No,
that.
I don't know what it is. So yes, it would be, that would be the floor, and then we'd go from there.
Fred, you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Sorry, one quick follow-up. It was said at Whitman Town Meeting that the district is sending out a survey or plans to this summer for ridership and ask about voluntarily opting out. Is that in place, or a plan?
There is a plan in place.
Okay.
There's a plan in place to do some more work as far as looking at what transportation is over the summer for both communities and ridership.
Okay. Meaning that the district will be sending out a survey?
Yes,
Okay.
we're looking at sending out a survey or multiple surveys.
Okay.
To assess where people are at.
Okay,
So
fair
there's a
enough.
plan
Thank
in
you.
place.
Yeah, the plan is to, yes.
Anything else in the bus contract? So I think we clarified this is not something that we need to vote, but certainly if you have concerns, now is the time or place. So I think there was some good clarification. Anyone else have any concerns? Otherwise, the superintendent is going to move forward with that execution.
Can I just?
Yes,
add
Fred.
One more thing, I just want to clarify. By the nature of the way this contract is written, should our survey result that we can lower it by a route or a bus, that would be adjusted for FY '22?
It would be adjusted for so we're billed by the bus.
Yep.
And whether that bus is 1 run, 2 runs, 3 runs, or 4 runs. So yes, if we had a bus that because of changes in ridership, we did not need that tier, it would go from a 4-tier run to a 3-tier run, and there would be a reduction in price. And if we could eliminate a bus in total, we'd get to do that as well.
Okay. And obviously, we could talk about giving the money back to the towns if it was non-mandated, et cetera.
We would look and we'd just run the calculation that we do now. With just the numbers would be smaller.
But in other words, we received money from the folks in Whitman and Hanson.
Correct.
For non-mandated busing by the town.
Mm-hmm.
So if the cost was less, we'd be able to send them
We're only going to bill
Rebate.
We're only going to bill them for the cost, right? If we bring the cost down, the bill will be less.
And I would, frankly, and I would say as an aside, that last year, we saw a reduction in busing costs because we stopped running buses in March. And as a result of that, we returned money to both Whitman and Hanson on the mandated busing part, a non-mandated busing part.
Okay.
So I'm not going to be here, but I'd assume you'd do the same thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Hopefully that takes care of the bus. Yes.
Takes care of buses. One other thing, very quickly, you got something that talks about CARES funding.
Yes.
So just an update so people know where we stand. In January, I distributed something very similar to this. At that point in time, we had submitted a number of requests for funding, and it totaled $866,000 in the. And let me just hold it up here quickly. It's to the school committee from me, and it doesn't make for exciting reading. So, but what it does tell you is that in the month of May, we filed 3 requests for funding. They totaled $969,000. That was the final amount of money that we had talked about receiving from the towns through CARES, and then the 2 funding sources that came from the earmarks. So we have now submitted all of those, and we await Plymouth County to send us money. For those of you who keep score, we have filed requests for a total of $1,835,000 in CARES receipts and earmarks. And as we have talked about several times, what will make this budget work this year, and the unusual expenses that we've had, has been the grants that are available. So,
And if I could just piggyback on John, I know that both towns have been outstanding in responding to our request for CARES. This is what we've submitted. We still have monies that we're paying through ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 for fiscal '21. If the towns have not exhausted, and I'm going to draft a letter to Ms. Green and Mr. Henneman, if the towns have not exhausted and maybe won't exhaust their CARES allocations from Plymouth County, because Plymouth County, when it's, I don't know what the date is, but it's coming up in the fall, is going to reshuffle who has not spent their money. If there's availability within the town's allocations, we could use it because it will offset some of our grants, which we can then use in the future to offset the assessments potentially, or provide program, or do some things. We just don't want to see money go away in the communities because we still have bills. But we just we gave them what they said they could afford, or their allocations for their students based upon, or for the schools based upon their percentage. So, but if there's money out there, we have bills to pay, and it would be great. So just letting the committee know, I'm going to draft a letter to them and ask for that. If there's nothing, it's nothing, but I think it's worth an opportunity, it's worth a shot. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Did you have the bond anticipation?
Yeah, Mr.
And now you
Amber's
get to
coming
your-
up.
Oh, yes.
So tag team, John to John.
John to John, makes it easy.
Welcome, Mr. Stanbrook.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to the committee. Good evening. I'm going to be going over the fiscal year '21 budget update through May. And so that's, the first one is the one I'm going to be going over is the revenue one. The first line on it is Hanson operating assessment. So on that document, from Hanson operating assessment down to Hanson HVAC debt, those are all the operating assessments for the year, and we have received all those amounts from the member towns for the year. So all that money is in already. From where Medicaid reimbursement is down to, I think it's school choice, no, I'm sorry, Chapter 71 transportation reimbursements. Those usually have large June payments, and the other accounts are usually linear monthly payments, just if you're trying to follow along. So it's tough to take a snapshot of May and see where we'll be in June on a couple of those. On interest income, which is the next line down, it's significantly lower than the budget due to the low deposit interest rate environment right now, and it's likely going to end up lower than the budget amount that we have in here of 100,000. I'm sorry, for 50,000. And then transfers from a circuit breaker and unreserved surplus, those usually happen in June, so that's why you see nothing there. That'll happen at the end of the fiscal year. So just down again for this report. The budget was 55 million. I'm going to round numbers off for everybody. 55.3 million. Right now, we've received 51.27 million. So that's how to read this, and some are new, and I don't know. Just kind of let that sink in, the funness that is this report. So that's the revenue report. The expenditure report. Again, the budget's in good shape as long as we receive Plymouth County CARES Act requests, as we said before. As you look at the line items, there are deficits related to paraprofessionals, substitute teachers, sped teachers, among others, and those are due to reporting requirements with the state. We've kept the COVID-19 cost allocations in the general fund under these accounts, and I haven't broken them out into a separate COVID-19 fund. There's no remote school account line in the budget, so salary items may be distorted because the remote school salaries are embedded in other line items. One of the things that did stand out, and I know that Mr. Tuffy has talked about this at a previous meeting, unemployment tax, that's further down in the back of the report. Those costs are related to an increase in unemployment claims, and also there's been some fraudulent claims that the state is looking into. I've been unemployed 8 times. I don't know how that happened. You'd think after the first time they might catch on, but that's okay. So when the state catches up with that, but again, as Mr. Tuffy said in a previous meeting, we have to pay those bills by the end of June 30th, and we're going to try to shake that out. Again, on the last page, just to review this report, the
revised budget is $55.3 million. The year-to-date expended is $45 million. Encumbrances of $2.2 million. That's money that's obligated but not yet spent. Leaves an available budget of about $8 million. So just for everyone on the committee to know that I'll be submitting a comprehensive list of line item transfers to the committee for approval as we close the books in fiscal year '21, sometime in the late summer, late August, or whenever we get to it, or whenever I get to it. So there are no deficits in any budget line items when we close out the year. And just as an FYI, I'm going to be experimenting on how to change the presentation of some of this data in future meetings. So I just want you to be kind of ready for that. I'd like to, I don't know what the right word to say, jazz it up, make it more interesting, make it more useful. I don't know, and it's nothing against what's gone on before, but I think we can do a little bit with it. So I'm going to try it, see what happens. May work, may not, we'll see. So that was it on the report part of the agenda item, if anyone had any questions.
Don?
Not a question so much as I'm remembering last June, we had a meeting on June 29th, and at the last minute, we were able to fund that ELA curriculum. So I'm thinking as we get towards the end of the fiscal year, I know as a parent in the district, sometimes it's the little things, and I talked about books long past in the fall. So I see some line items, just page 5, high school general supplies, and maybe these funds are spoken for, but it's $24,000. So, Superintendent, do you have a conversation, or how do the building principals or teachers handle it when maybe they have some supplies available? What's the decision on purchasing, maybe books?
So
forth?
funding-wise, right now, this is a unique budget. Normally, at this point, I would say, yes, that's an excess, and that's maybe we can spend because we had frozen the budget. Because we have not received, and I don't know how much money from CARES money, we have not received that yet.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that we can pay those bills, because we have to close the budget sooner than later, and those CARES monies might not come in until September, October.
Okay.
So those, if it does come back and we have an excess, we could put that in E&D and then maybe look at utilizing some things next year. So this is very unique. It's,
Okay.
we spent a lot of money hoping to get money from Plymouth County. It's coming, but the last distribution, Mr. Tuffy, was in April or March from CARES to any towns. They haven't done anything yet, and we're into June and we're closing the books.
So we're not counting any surplus at this
Right,
point?
not yet. I mean, I think we're gonna have to flesh that out, okay?
Okay.
But good point.
And I say it's the little things, only because I know I've had students in the district come home to me and say, oh, the teacher said if we can buy the book, that would be great. They have books that, they can give us, but they're short on
Yep,
it. And it
absolutely correct.
has been a sign of the times in the past. There've been very lean times, so I understand that. And if there is surplus, it would be
Absolutely.
great to help out families that way.
Thank you.
Good?
The HVAC, John?
On the bond anticipation note sale, this was a Hanson-only project for Hanson Middle School, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning project. On May 20th, 2021, the district held a bond anticipation note sale on a one-year, $390,000 ban. That's what a bond anticipation note. We received 2 bidders. The winner was Newburyport 5-cent Savings Bank at a 0.5 interest rate for the year. So just reporting those results.
Great.
And that's it.
Well, welcome. You look well. We should probably take a picture now. You look well rested. And we'll take another picture after budget season and we can compare. But welcome. I thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks,
Thank you,
John.
John.
I'm good.
Good. All right. We'll press on to unfinished business. So the next item is the strategic plan working groups, which is a proposal that you all received. I'm just going to hit a few brief points because you all have a detailed document in front of you. So this is something that Jeff, George, and I spent some time looking at. I think collectively as a group, we've all talked about doing a degree of strategic planning together, and that's not really something that we've done, right? We get the plan, we kind of all look at it, it's rushed. So really the proposal here is to use time over the summer to really work through the strategic items of focus, kind of identify what are the big areas of focus for all of us, making sure that they align with the hallmarks of success. We would absolutely need to make sure that the leadership team participates. So while it's wonderful we all have great thoughts and ideas as school committee members, we are not the experts. This is not what we do. So we absolutely need to make sure that we engage them in that process. And for us to really make sure that things work going forward, it's got to be we're all on the same page. And so we being the school committee, the superintendent, the leadership team, the staff, everyone has to be on the same page. Otherwise, we end up going all over the place. I think what we've tried to outline here is a combination of having some of this open to the public, so there's transparency in terms of what we're doing and giving the public an opportunity to weigh in at times, but also the lion's share of this would be, the groups would be spending some time, we'd have some smaller groups spending some time throughout the course of the summer. Those would not be public meetings. We would certainly interject some public comment into those, but we need to have the opportunity to work. And so basically when you look at it, there's a series of meetings. The easiest way to think about it is the end goal, which would be on August 25th. Hopefully if this works well, we've spent the time together, we collectively sit here in a public meeting and we make sure that we're clear on here are the 3 big picture areas that we're going to focus on, and we start to translate that into very specific goals and or objectives. So this helps us align. You know, we talked about the superintendent's evaluation earlier. Theoretically, we're putting the time and effort in early and over the summer, and I know it's some work for all of us, but we're doing that, and when we leave the summer, it's very clear. We should have the goals that flow right into the superintendent's goals. We're all on the same page, the entire district's on the same page, and we move forward. So, Jeff, I don't know if you have any comments before I open it up to the committee.
Chris and I spoke at length. We developed a strategic plan, and I think over 3 years here sitting at this committee, folks here want to be involved in discussions and moving forward and having something in writing that we're all on the same page. I said moving the train forward in one direction. It will help me, it will help my team so that we know where we're going, and we know that's the goal of the school committee. So I endorse this. I think it's a worthwhile effort. We're on board. You know, timing is going to be over the summer. I think Chris and I said if you put the legwork in earlier, maybe we reduce a school committee meeting from a 3-hour meeting to an hour-and-a-half meeting because we're not talking about multiple things going on. We know we can report out. It will help me tremendously in my goals moving forward. So I'm not trying to guess where people are at, and it will give the community an opportunity through you to say, these are important. If we try to make up things that are, we've talked about things that we've cut in the past, and maybe that's not a priority of the community now. Maybe they want to see something different. And this is an opportunity for them, through you, to have us move forward. So I endorse this.
So I want to open it up to questions, comments from the committee. Chris.
All right. First of all, thank you. I think this is great, and I love the idea of the workshops for us all to get together and kind of hammer out what we want to do as a committee. And I think, you know, just giving us another chance to hear from all voices in the committee, and like Jeff said, by extension, you know, in the community as well. So I'm thrilled that we're doing this. I think it's going to pay dividends.
Any other comments? Fred?
I would hope that at the conclusion, so after August 25th when we vote it, that we can establish, again, I don't mean to beat the horse, establish some sort of a budgetary committee, now that we have our goals in place, that would include the town administrators, Board of Selectmen representative, FinCom representatives, and we can have a clear path of how we're going to accomplish these goals, if they're going to include additional funds, and you know, what's necessary and how we can take that next step forward.
Yeah. So Fred, I mean, I completely appreciate the point. And so this is one person's opinion. We have to act as a committee, right? I think in the past, where we've struggled is we're trying to do the finances, but we're not on the same page of what we want to fund. So, right, we end up having this, well, I want a budget that's going to do this, Mike wants this, and so we haven't really made the progress I think we all collectively want. So, yes, I'm hopeful that when we get to the end, it's clear. Now it makes it really easy to potentially have a budget subcommittee because it's clear. We all know exactly what we're focusing on, both the long-term strategic plan and the immediate, this is what we want to focus on next year. It becomes really easy now for, hey, these are the 2 or 3 things that we're really going to focus on, to now have that budget subcommittee And hopefully, we're all moving forward. There's no secrets. These are all public. So the selectmen, the town, they're going to understand what these elements are, and hopefully that there's a consensus of the committee. So I think that would work really well. My hope is that we're getting the dominoes stacked first, and then we'll figure out, how we're going to actually fund them. And I think that's where we've kind of just struggled, and not from anyone's intent. I see a committee that's extremely passionate and wants to participate. This is what we talked about, and so this is giving everyone that opportunity to do that. So absolutely, I think that's great. Mr. Boyce.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Remember when we did I want to call it an exercise, but it was more than that, and we went around the room and you took our notes and everything? That was wonderful. And my idea, it screamed out and I just loved it, but this aging brain might not just actually remember all the words. Do you still have those notes in a sense?
So that was when we were focused on community engagement.
Okay,
And
but that's a good piece.
No, it was good, and I think
utilize.
the issue that, speaking candidly, my frustration was is I think we all put the time in, but then it didn't transfer to action.
Right.
So the commitment here is if we're going to put the time in, it needs to turn into action.
Yeah.
We're not, you all have things to do. Jeff has things to do. George, the team here has things to do this summer. So if we're going to put the time in, we have to figure it out and then turn it into action. So Fred, to your point, I think that's where we should be feeling good about. Maybe it's not 232 things. We're going to have a list. So
Right.
if we have the brainstorming meeting on the 23rd, right, we'll come up with a massive list. We're going to then put it into some big categories and focus on those. But we can keep the list. So maybe next summer we pull the list back out. Hopefully we're saying, hey, we accomplished what we said we were going to accomplish. Let's go back to the list. But it gives us a degree of organization and clarity. So, halfway through the year, if I'm like, hey, guys, new idea, let's go land on Mars, hopefully as a committee, we're like, Chris, that wasn't something that we agreed on, but why don't you save that for next summer? And,
Right.
then Jeff and team will come back and be like, we probably can't quite do that yet.
Okay.
But yes, that would.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a thought, and I'm so sorry I was lost.
That was great.
The brain's still there, don't worry.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I was just going to confirm the date, so June 23rd.
So if we take it in,
Proposed.
so if we take it in pieces, right, we'll keep this document handy, but yes, the plan would be, we come here on the 23rd, it is a posted meeting, and everyone comes prepared with some big picture ideas. So
And there's no other business at that.
no other business, that's it. 6 to 8, 2 hours, we're in. I might see if George is willing, we'll bring out the easel and the, white piece of paper, and we'll just jot down the ideas, and then we'll let that kind of sink in. One of the important steps in this is that we can brainstorm all we want, but again, using my example, we're going to go land on Mars. We want to give Jeff and the leadership team an opportunity to weigh back in terms of, they're going to be supportive. They want to support what it is that we're hearing and the communities want, but they may also, we need to have them weigh in terms of, again, it's going to take a little while to build a spaceship. That might not work. Here are the 3 things that maybe the leadership team came up with. And again, now we're all on the same page. But yeah, the next milestone here would be to meet on the 23rd, and that's it. We're just talking strategic planning, brainstorming. That's all we're
That falls
doing.
under the what, right? We all
Yeah.
say what we believe, and you say, well, this is how I think I can do it.
Correct.
How?
Like Steve said, the worker. I mean, we'll roll up our sleeves, but we want to have something that's tangible that we can do. I love Chris's analogy of Mars. We're not there yet. I might get you to the moon,
Right.
but I can't get you to Mars yet, So the goal is after the 23rd is we bring our team together. I can showcase some of the brainstorming here, and then we can narrow down and say what's tangible and our areas of priority, and kick it back to you folks, and then on the 30th.
Yeah. And for the public that doesn't have the document, the way it would work is when we have our brainstorming meeting on the 23rd and we came up with our list, we will create, Jeff was gracious enough to volunteer his email. We'll create an opportunity if anyone watching that meeting or listening to that meeting has thoughts, they can drop him a note. And again, that'll help. We can share that all so we all have access to, hey, the public had a huge reaction to this. Okay, well, that's helpful for us to understand. So again, it's really important to make sure that we're not doing this in a vacuum and we're engaging the public. Fred?
That, or even a suggestion, we create an email, strategic plan that Whitman Hanson.
We could do something right off of the website.
Whatever.
Directly on that, and perhaps we can post our progress, as you say, a living document. We can post on the website so people can look at it.
Yep.
At their leisure.
Absolutely. I think open to any suggestion. I just want to make sure we, as long as that's doable and it's easy, fantastic, absolutely. Yes, Hillary.
I just have a clarifying question. So in the document, rereading the strategic plan, so the brainstorming ideas we come with, are we using the strategic plan, these initiatives as sort of like our jumping off point?
So I think
Or under those?
so if you look at the strategic plan, there's the hallmarks of success.
Yeah.
So I think what we're looking for, and I need George and Jeff and I, we spent some time on this. We want to make sure that we're aligning our concepts to the hallmarks of success. So if you come up with a concept, for example, we're going to go land on Mars, and you're like, well, that really doesn't fit in social emotional learning or a pre-K system or safe and secure schools or community engagement, then when we have that meeting, that's where hopefully the leadership team's going to push back and be like, that doesn't really fit here. But these are so broad that most of the ideas, other than the outrageous example that I'm providing, really should fit here. I mean, there's a lot of wiggle room under the hallmarks of success. But Hillary, to clarify, we're not saying you have to beholden to, well, under this one is here or 2 is here, and we have to follow that. Just make sure that, focus on the hallmarks of success and make sure it fits within it. Can you help clarify?
Sure. So I would think that the basic framework of what you're looking at is the front page. And from the front page, you're looking at what we've already defined as our 5 major area blocks, hallmarks. When we then think of what is the initiative, we always have to tie it back to one of those hallmarks, because this is the accepted strategic plan that every district has to have one of these. So then we tie it back. As we move forward and flesh it out, that's when we're thinking about what are the strategic initiatives that we want to now do. So in our minds, page 2 can change. Page 2 is linked to the hallmarks, but page 2 can change. And that's what the results of the working groups will come up with. Now, when we have the bigger picture idea, so if the hallmarks are Mars, the initiatives are the moon, what we then do is build the rocket to say, how do we get there on our path to interplanetary success? And that would be then, I'm winging this, and that would be then the outcomes that we then say, based on this year, this is what we think we can accomplish. So we're going from macro to micro, but our first task is what's the macro? And then once that's decided, how do we do it in the micro or step by step? Because then there'll be a document, all that stuff will get put into here, we'll update it, and then we'll all be on the same page to move forward.
Everyone sound reasonably okay? I know it's going to be some work. I see some nodding heads, so it sounds like everyone's willing to put the work in. Yes?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So we don't need to vote that. Basically, we're going to have a meeting on the 23rd, and hopefully you'll all be here, because that's the plan. Again, the homework is read the first page, think about some ideas. I think you all have the ideas. Just sitting in these committee meetings, I've heard a lot of the ideas. I've heard a lot of the concepts. So we'll just kind of go round robin. And if you don't have something you're passionate about, that's okay too. We'll all participate. Fantastic. Appreciate that. Okay, I believe next is subcommittee assignments. Am I in the right spot?
You are.
Okay. There's a lot more paper on this side.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
So, all right, so we just talked, we're all going to have quite a bit to do this summer. So again, I think in terms of subcommittees, the one item or one committee that we need to look at immediately is the facilities subcommittee. They probably will need to meet at least a couple times.
Like to have you on call in case something happens. Yeah.
So again, looking to give everyone the opportunity to participate as we populate the committees. We'll probably be looking at policy, if we decide to do something on budget, whatever else that is at the end of the summer. So right now, it's really just facilities subcommittee. So I'm looking for 2 or 3 brave volunteers that would want to serve. I'm going to try and cap it at 3 if we can.
I have a question.
Yes, question.
Can you speak to how you see the subcommittees forming? How many subcommittees might each of us be on, things like that?
Yeah, so again, I don't think we want to be too prescriptive or make it too black and white, but I think everyone should have an opportunity to participate. So if we're talking about, and I think this is gonna be a little bit of a work in progress because we need to kind of figure out what these areas are and then go from there. We may come up with an area of focus that isn't done over the summer, and we decide as a committee and leadership team that we want to have a subcommittee dedicated to A, whatever A is, over the course of the year. So it's a little fluid. I think my hope is everyone has an opportunity to participate. So if we end up with, 10 subcommittees, then everyone might be on a couple, right? So 2 to 3 members, I think we got to be careful. We got to start to learn to trust each other. Having 5 committee members on a subcommittee, I mean, to me, we'll just put it on the agenda and do it here. There's no sense in having a subcommittee if it's going to have 5 or 6 members on it. So does that help a little bit, Chris? I think it's going to be fluid, but we'll be transparent.
Yep.
And just to add, I would like a variety of folks to get involved.
Yes.
So, multiple people, you all serve, and that way there you can see how we operate in different ways. And that gives you an opportunity to see different things. So we'll have opportunity there, and I'd like to just see more folks get involved in numerous committees.
So as it pertains to facilities, I'm looking for 2 or 3. I got Mike and I got Fred. Anyone else?
Can I just say, I'm not putting my hand up.
Oh, you put your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Necessarily for this, and everyone's in their own world with their own job, their own personal lives and everything, but nationwide where I get a responsibility, and not saying no one else does, for presidential libraries and they're slowly opening, I'm not hesitating for any other reason, but I just don't know what my schedule's going to be for certain things.
So let me rephrase what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think everyone should be given the opportunity to participate. Everyone has to make their own decisions in terms of what they can do.
Yeah.
I mean, perfect example is Dan has to make a decision to take care of his family. That comes first,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
we get it. So it shouldn't be an obligation of everyone has to be on 2 or 3 subcommittees. It should be everyone has the opportunity to participate. So does that help? Do what you can. So I got Mike and Fred, which I'm going to go with unless anyone else feels.
Sounds good.
Well, now I'm going to jump in.
Oh, now you want to do it?
I want to give it a try.
Okay, great.
I really do. And if I'll let you know, be totally transparent and honest if it's too much, but.
And Steve, we might be able to bring you in on Zoom too. If we're meeting in public, and you're still in your office, we could bring you in.
Okay.
So we have
So-
that possibility.
Just don't use that federal cell phone.
Everyone's good? So I will, Michelle, so I'm appointing Steve, Fred, and Mike to facilities.
Perfect.
And then as a housekeeping note, since we had subcommittees on the agenda, one item we do need to address in the near term, I'm looking for my notes here to make sure I got the right one. So Dan was on Unit D, remember, for the negotiations for this fiscal year. So I think Mike and Fred, one of you has B and one of you has C.
I have C.
You have C, you have B. Does anyone want to do D?
Or Mike or Fred could do both.
Or we can certainly put you guys on both of it, or one of you.
Should be pretty straightforward. I did D last time.
And I had a conversation with the association, and whoever the subcommittee members are, I'll have a follow-up conversation with you tomorrow to try to expedite this process.
Okay, so Fred, thank you for throwing your hat in the ring. Does anyone else want to do it? Okay.
Is Mike going to join me, or?
And that's just for right now. That's just for.
He didn't raise his hand, so you got the 2.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
So you got B, you got what, C
He's
and
got,
D?
Fred's got C and D, and Mike still has D.
Mike
and
does
B.
B.
He still has a higher grade than you. Legislative representative. So I know Jeff did some research on this, so I wanted to let him kind of share this, and then we can kind of talk this one through as well.
So we had a conversation about the legislative representative from our committee. I asked my superintendent's group, only one community in our area, town of Hingham, has a legislative rep, and that person on the committee happens to be a good friend of the rep, so they just naturally talk. Most of the superintendents are the legislative rep. So I would ask this committee to give me that authority. They're going to call me anyway, but I would like to be that legislative rep and then disperse information from both reps, Cutler and Sullivan, and Senator Brady. The process I would use is I'd send a letter on behalf of the school committee, myself, saying that all information from their aides or from them would focus through me, and then I distribute whatever I get from them immediately to the entire committee.
I think the only thing I'll add to that, in speaking with Jeff, is it really helps us align, right, in terms of what we're trying to do. And I think the other thing we said we'd add to that letter is to make sure that they understand, you know.
You can still advocate.
Yeah, the committee is all available, so they can reach out to any of us. We're not precluding that. But as it pertains to school-related matters, flowing through the superintendent just seems to make it a little bit more efficient. So this, I think, addresses Steve's concern of, hey, wait a second, they know we're still here, right? Yeah, not only do they know we're still here, but ultimately we're looking kind of the CEO of the district to maintain those relationships. So, Fred.
And the only thing I'll add, and, you know, I'm speaking on my own behalf, I have my own personal relationships.
Of course.
And, you know, I intend to continue them.
Of course.
And however I can, you know, be a pass-through of information, sometimes I get tipped off on things a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
You know, then they become public and whatnot. You know, most certainly be glad to do that.
Much appreciated. So thank you for that, Fred, and
We'll do
thank
that.
you, Jeff.
We'll
We don't
process
need to
that.
vote
Nope.
that. Perfect. Okay, so next item. Oh,
You're doing well.
we might get there.
You're doing well.
A revised 2021-2022 academic calendar.
So in your packet is a revised calendar we just included all the professional dates, half-days or, you know, orientations, parent nights, conferences, academic, when report cards come out. This doesn't affect any of the start or end of school. It just puts into play what parents have to look at.
Motion to accept?
Second?
Any discussion? Fred?
And just for the public's edification, when will this be posted on the website so parents can start looking at
As
it?
soon as you approve it, Michelle will push a
There's
button.
already one out.
Tomorrow?
I think there's one on there already.
Yeah, I think there is already one out there, so this'll overwrite the other one. Perfect. Steve, and then done. Steve.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Chris is good.
Chris is good. Both of them.
Chair, I feel like a piece of.
Well, you know, we moved to the 6 PM start time for our regular meetings during the pandemic because we had to be done by a certain time, like we had to be home by 9 o'clock or whatever. Would we be moving back to a 7? And I'm only saying it for anyone that, you know, will now have to go back in the office and travel for work or whatever the case may be.
It's up to you.
I got a good witness of traffic last Friday, and, yeah, it's like a full boom out there again. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if my dates would change that I need to be in the office more or not. But again, personal situations, I'll survive on whatever we do.
So do you think it would be a challenge for you to make the 6 o'clocks, or it's going to be close?
I can make it. The
Okay.
people at the presidential libraries in the
Okay.
time zone, they're not going to break.
Well, let's open up to the committee real quick, so.
Yeah.
And can we get a consensus? So right now, we're on the 6 o'clock train. Does anyone want to change it to 7?
I
Chris?
prefer 6, but that's just.
Fred?
I'm open either way, but also could we even, if it is something we're looking to change, maybe look at 6:30 even?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm fine either way.
I mean, I think the other part is and we're doing great tonight, if we can keep the meetings to a couple hours, then that probably gives us a little more flexibility. I
Yeah.
think the problem is we have a 7 o'clock meeting and it's 10:30 and we're still going.
Yeah,
That's tough. So,
yeah, that is.
6 is good for now.
so why don't we do, Steve, are you okay for the summer?
Oh, yeah.
So why don't we
I-
keep it at
yeah.
6, and can you make a note, or Michelle, let's make sure when we conclude that August meeting that we talk about start times, and as a group, we can make the determination if we want to switch it to 6:30 or something.
And please don't base it on me.
No, but it's no big deal.
You know,
Gives us an opportunity to maybe
first.
have dinner first, it's all right.
Yeah, right.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Don?
Yeah, one quick correction. I want to thank Michelle. I asked about June 20th, it adds 5 days, and she reminded me that June 20th will be a no-school day because Juneteenth is now an actual holiday.
Correct.
So if we can just add no school next to that, Michelle, because I was thinking that was like Rosh Hashanah. It's recognized on the calendar, but we have school on that day, so technically.
Only if we go to 5 snow days. So I think in there,
Yeah.
I think it's
blacked
there.
out, right, on the calendar?
Yeah, but I guess the way I was reading it is that it may be Juneteenth, but if we have 5 snow days, they would be going on the 20th, but you said no, they would not.
The 20th is the actual holiday this year, because it's celebrated on the 19th, so they would not be in school on the 20th, and the 21st would actually be their last day.
Right.
With 5 snow days.
So Don, in the calendar, in the packet, it says June 20th, Juneteenth Independence Day, and it's notated.
Okay.
Is that, I don't know, I don't know, do you have that copy or not? Is that not what you're asking?
Yeah, this one in the packet?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, what were your?
I don't know, I guess, because the other holidays, like Good Friday, actually says no school. And
Just
I
add
see
no
what you're
school next
saying.
to it.
Okay.
Oh,
Got
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay,
Very
absolutely.
simple.
I wasn't sure.
Sorry.
Can I make a note though? So add no school, but maybe put in, this is just getting.
Right.
Because it's only no school.
If we don't have 5 snow days.
Yeah, but no, I think everyone will figure that out, right?
Yep.
We have last day of school. Last day of school, June 13th.
It just threw me off because I was like, that's.
I agree. We'll
Is there any way around that?
around what?
Like
No, it's a state holiday.
maybe just speaking as a teacher in June right now, I just feel like that is terrible.
Right.
You can petition your legislative representatives and see if
Like,
it's.
and
Jeff can let.
Is there a day that we could squeeze somewhere else? And I know we're voting on this right now, and I'm sorry, I apologize, but is there a day that we could squeeze somewhere else to push it so that the 17th would be the last day? I guess it would it would just have to be one day, right?
Right.
If there's 5 snow days.
Correct.
Right.
The Commission of Education said no remote snow
Correct.
days this year.
Yep.
So there's no getting around that.
We don't have any full-day professional days. The only day that some people flex is Good Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
We gave up
Yeah.
December 23rd, that's a school day. That used to be a day off. That is not. So really, every day is a day unless you wanted to come back a day earlier, and I don't think that's appropriate at this point.
Right. It's just odd the way it
Dan.
falls.
Yeah, this holiday, it's a new holiday. Is it written in there you have to take school off?
It's a state holiday.
State holiday, but you
affirmed
have to
in-
take it off?
Yes. It's July of 2020, it was signed into law by Governor Baker. So it's a no-school day across the state.
It's just not called the snow days.
It's not called.
So basically,
we're going to have no snow.
No 5 snow days.
Yeah.
We have to cross our exactly. We have to cross our fingers and hope that we don't have 5 snow days. But any other, I mean, we can certainly look at changing days. I just don't.
Yeah, I think
It's going to get funky. We're going to have to change the first day of school. We're going to have to cut out a day of winter break. Okay. Any other discussion? All right, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Great. Okay, and then the next item was the calendar of 21,
don't have to,
22
because we did it.
school meeting dates. I don't think we need to go through that in detail. I think you have it, and everything should be in this document now. So if you just keep this calendar on your fridge, your computer, or whatever you want, it should have everything laid out. And I know, Michelle, you usually do a really good job about sending us the invites, so if you can continue to do that, I think that helps us all. Yes? The the calendar invite.
I wouldn't be here
go.
sometimes if it wasn't for her.
So we appreciate that,
Between
Michelle,
and
if you
it pops up and you know.
if you can continue to do that. We need to designate a voting member and voting alternative to the Mayflower Municipal Health Group. Jeff, you need to clarify, this is internal.
This is an internal person. It is usually the business manager and/or designee. I would recommend Mr. Stanbrook and Miss Erica Sherman, who's his next in line. So as the person is Mr. Stanbrook, the alternate would be Erica Sherman.
Fred?
I believe Mr. Stanbrook has experience in that position as well,
I believe so.
from his work in town, so.
Yes, so would someone like to make a motion
I would
to
make a
have
motion to-
Mr. Stanbrook,
Second.
our voting member, and Ms., sorry, what was her name, Erica?
Erica Sherman.
Sherman as our alternative. We got a motion and second?
Yep.
Michelle, you're good? Any further discussion? Fred?
If, I could just ask if we could be briefed from time to time as to the internal discussions of Mayflower and legacy plans and, what their directions are, and perhaps be current or up to date, with their loss ratios, loss runs, reserves, et cetera.
We can look at that.
Sure.
We'll put that on
Yep.
the annual calendar.
Yep.
As an opportunity. Okay, yes, Fred, noted, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Great, unanimous. Okay.
Last update, just-
Policy on face coverings.
So we have a policy on face covering that really is outdated now. And I've been able to just modify based on current state standards from the governor and then from DESI standards, so just updating you. Effective May 29, 2021, fully vaccinated educators do not have to wear a mask when outdoors, and unvaccinated educators are encouraged to wear masks when outdoors in alignment with the state mask policy. Students and staff still are required to wear masks indoors and on buses. And right now, that's up for debate for summer programs. I'm hearing that that might be shifted, but until for us for next June 16th, all of our teachers and students are required to wear masks inside. Nobody has to wear masks outside. If they're vaccinated adults, it's recommended that they wear masks. If they're unvaccinated, and they don't have to follow social distancing regulations, although it's recommended to stay with, 3 feet. And in school, we're at 3 feet. So it's not, this is just an update for you folks. It doesn't have to be a change in the policy, because I think that's going to change next week anyway. So it's an update. We've been following these guidelines. As soon as the governor put them out and DESI put them out, I educated our public, and it's working. But we haven't been able to touch base to officially say this is where we're at. So this is where we're at.
We do need to vote this one, yes?
I really.
Or do we not?
You really don't, because you gave me the script to change policy.
Sorry, thank you.
And just update you folks. So.
I had to miss one thing, guys. Come on. Last, or almost last item, the MASC Joint Conference, we need to vote an official delegate and an alternate. So I would look for a volunteer. Anyone?
I heard the meeting's at like 9 a.m. on Wednesday.
I was the delegate last year. If anyone else is interested, I would,
So far, I'm not seeing any hands, Don, so. Anyways.
I intend to go, but, Dawn's welcome to be the delegate. I'll be an alternate needed.
yeah, I'll be the delegate.
Fantastic.
I volunteer.
And have they set a date for the conference yet, Michelle? I saw it.
Yeah, they just
Yeah, we
sent
got it in
something
the
out.
mail.
Got it in the mail?
the other
Okay.
day.
So does anyone need me to send you the brochure?
I think, Michelle, you already asked us to contact you if we want to attend, right?
I just asked you if you wanted.
Oh, sorry, my
So
bad.
we'll send something out to
Send
the
something
entire
out.
committee.
Thank you, please.
About
Sorry.
the joint conference, and it's in person and virtual down the Cape.
So yes, we'll get that out. But yes, so Don will be the delegate, Fred will be the alternate, and then Don, I think you did a good job last year. Well, there's some things that we just need to kind of figure out on how to vote, so we need to do that as well. All right, last item on the agenda is a field trip request. This is for the 8th grade Washington DC trip. Yes, you have something further on that one?
Get you done quick. This is for the 8th grade field trip at Hanson Middle School. Mr. Tranter's always done it. We have a new principal at the Whitman Middle School, Mr. Dupre. For years past that they both had a similar experience, but they went to different areas. Mr. Tranter has been in touch with a new company right now, and they're in touch with him, so he would like to start that process in case they can do it. He's been in touch with Mr. Dupre also, who's going to be the principal at the Whitman Middle School, to gauge his interest. The Hanson Middle School is a little bit farther along, but I wanted to let you know that the Whitman Middle School is also in discussions through Mr. Tranter at the Hanson Middle School to hopefully not really do it together, because from an adolescent standpoint, I don't know if that's great, but to do a similar experience so they can both have that experience.
Motion to approve the Hanson Middle School for discussion.
Second.
Any discussion? Fred?
Just my heartfelt hope that Whitman joins them. It could be a joint trip. The kids could intermingle as they'll be joining each other a year later.
Appropriately intermingled.
Yeah,
Right.
of course. But I just think
Travel
that would be a wonderful thing, and I think DC's just an awesome place for kids to go to.
Will DC be open then?
Yeah, that's what we're hoping, right?
Fingers crossed.
Right, this is all preliminary.
All preliminary.
So,
And yes, I'll buy candy.
fantastic. Any other discussion on that one? All right, I'll move to the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. Anyone opposed? And I'm going to abstain.
Yes.
Because my daughter's going. So I'll let you guys make that decision. All right, before we adjourn, just a couple dates. June 16th,
Last day of school.
last day of school. Should I say it really loud? Last day of school.
Last day of school.
Early release.
Dances begin.
23rd, we have our working group session here. June 30th, working group session here. And then August 18th and 25th would be the end of those sessions. And that is.
So we don't have a posted school committee meeting in July.
We do not have a posted school committee meeting in July, but just so the public understands, we'll all be working hard, so.
Right.
Yes,
The motion to adjourn.
awesome.
Second?
Oh, okay. I was going to ask if Mr. Cullity could lead us with the motion to adjourn for the...
Oh, yeah, you guys want to rescind that?
I will rescind my motion.
Good, I seconded it.
No, you can make the motion. Dan will make the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Fantastic. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Great. Thank you. Have a
Thank you,
great night.
folks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
7:57. Good work.
Great job.
One-